हरे कृष्णा यज्ञ धनिष प्रभु दंडवत प्रणाम।
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु दंडवत प्रणाम। प्लीज एक्सेप्ट प्रणाम।
ओके ओके ठीक हो।
स्पीकर ऑन करो।
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please set my respectful obeisances.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. Oh, very hot here. How is it in Delhi? Is it very hot?
Maharaj, 45 degree here in Vrindavan.
Yeah. I heard very hot there, yeah. It's hot here also, Mayapur.
Yes.
Ooh. Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Maharaj Ji, my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay. So I think we'll begin, yeah? Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhai Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome everyone to our study of Bhakti Sastri, and we're on Bhagavad-Gita chapter 11 this evening. All right, so you can see we're going to hear about the Vishwarup, and here's the breakdown of the chapter, the main points of the chapter. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections. First of all, Arjuna's request and Krishna's description of the universal form. Arjuna's request. Arjuna wants to see Krishna's universal form. All right? We know in the 10th chapter, Arjuna heard about Krishna's all-pervading feature. He heard how Krishna is everywhere in everything. So now, in this chapter, chapter 11, Arjuna wants to see how Krishna is everywhere in everything. And that's why Lord Krishna shows the Vishwarup. So that's Arjuna's request, and then Krishna describes, and then 9 to 14, Arjuna's situation is revealed to Dhritarashtra. Arjuna's situation is revealed to Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra, of course, he's far away from Kurukshetra. Dhritarashtra is in Hastinapur. But remember, Dhritarashtra, he began the Bhagavad-Gita in the first chapter. He was inquiring about his sons. He's anxious to know what is happening. And Sanjay is describing to him. So Arjuna's situation is revealed to Dhritarashtra. Arjuna's situation, that Arjuna's bewildered. He really would prefer not to fight. But he understands Lord Krishna wants him to fight. And then 15 to 31, Arjuna describes the universal form of the Lord. We'll hear Arjuna's description of this universal form. And then that's followed with just a short section, 32 to 34, where Krishna, because Arjuna had asked Krishna, "Who are you?" Arjuna was so bewildered seeing the universal form. Arjuna had to request Krishna, please, who are you? And that time then Krishna explains that he is time. And then he requests Arjuna also to become an instrument in the service of the Lord. So that's an important section there. And that's 32 to 34. And then 35 up to 46, after Lord Krishna had spoken like that, explaining that he was time, and he also told Arjuna that, everyone except for a few of the Pandavas, except for you Pandavas, everyone's going to die. They're all going to lose their lives. They're all going to finish their material bodies at Kurukshetra. So only you Pandavas are going to will be left after the battle. So that's Krishna's Kala Rup, you could say, Krishna's form of time. And so Arjuna heard all that, and then he offers his prayers to Lord Krishna. In the final section, we'll hear about the importance of pure devotion and how only pure devotees can see Krishna's two-armed form. Arjuna prays he will also ask Krishna to show the four-armed form, because Arjuna had seen the universal form, but then he asked Krishna, please show me the four-armed form. But Arjuna is still not satisfied seeing the four-armed form, and he requests Lord Krishna, please just go back to the two-armed form. Because Arjuna finds the two-armed form to be the most sweetest, and the form in which Arjuna can most relate to is Krishna in the two-armed form. So that's an important point, that the two-armed form is much easier for the devotees to relate to, and Arjuna certainly found it like that. The universal form is awesome, overwhelming, bewildering. It's not so much for the devotees. Devotees enjoy loving reciprocation, and we can experience more loving relationship with the Lord in his two-armed form. All right, so those are the main sections of the chapter. We're going to go through them. We'll begin with a look at the connection with the previous chapter. Previous chapter, we were hearing about the opulences of the Absolute, Vibhuti Yoga. So, we quote the final verse of that 10th chapter, Vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam ekam shena stito jagat. With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire creation. Lord Krishna had spoken like that. So, Arjuna begins the 11th chapter by asking, someone would like to read for us, please, this first verse?
Arjuna Vacha Mad Anugrahaya Paramam Guhyam Adhyatma Samgitam Yat Tivattam Vachastena Mohayam Vigato Mama. Arjuna said, by my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about the most confidential spiritual subject, my illusion has now been dispelled.
All right. So Arjuna is happy because Lord Krishna had instructed him confidential topics. He spoke in the Chatur Sloki, so many confidential things Lord Krishna had revealed to Arjuna. So Arjuna said his illusion has now been dispelled. But Prabhupada's purport, Prabhupada explains. Someone please read.
Mahoyam Vigato Mama. Now as far as Arjuna is concerned, he says that his illusion is over. This means that Arjuna no longer thinks of Krishna as a mere human being, as a friend of his, but as a source of everything. Arjuna is very enlightened and is glad that he has such a great friend as Krishna. But now he is thinking that although he may accept Krishna as the source of everything, others may not. So, in order to establish Krishna's divinity for all, he is requesting Krishna in this chapter to show his universal form. It's from Purport Bhagavad-Gita, 11th chapter, 1st verse.
Right. Yes, Arjuna wants Krishna to show this universal form, to establish to everyone, let everyone know that Krishna is the source of everything. Why does he have to show it? Because it's not enough to just say. You can just talk, I'm God. Oh, okay, prove it. You know, you want somebody to show that if you're really God, then show us you're God, you know. Pick up the Govardhan hill or do something wonderful to show that you're really the Supreme. That's required. You can't just only say, I'm God. Somebody claims to be God. It has to be supported. There has to be proof, evidence. Just like even in the ordinary world, you know, you want to get a job, you go to a company for a job, they want references. They want to see what are your qualifications, what experience do you have, and things like that. So if somebody wants to establish themselves as God, they have to prove it. If they're actually an avatar, they have to prove it. We have to see some credentials. What can they do? And sometimes people would ask Prabhupada, they would say to Prabhupada, can you show us some miracles, Swamiji? Right? And what would Prabhupada do? Yes?
You would say that I've done one miracle, that I've turned hippies into happies.
I'm sorry, I can't understand what you're saying, Prabhu. Could you say again?
Yeah, Prabhupada used to say, no, I haven't done a miracle, but yeah, I have done one miracle. I have turned hippies into happies.
Yes, Prabhupada would say that in the past these people did not follow regulative principles. But now they're very strict devotees and they're mad after Krishna. It's not a matter of just from hippies to happies, but Prabhupada actually got people to give up their sinful life. He got people to change their standard of behavior. That before coming to Krishna consciousness, people were addicted to so many sinful habits. And that's true everywhere, today and in Prabhupada's time. Before coming to Krishna consciousness, most people had so many bad habits. And then they come to Krishna consciousness and they learn what is the proper standard of behavior. They actually undergo transformation. So that was Prabhupada's achievement. Prabhupada often said like that. Okay, connection with the previous chapter. Here, text number 2. Did somebody read?
Tatvatah bhavapayayo hi bhutanam suto vistaraso maya. I have heard from you in details about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity.
Okay. So Arjuna is saying, I have heard about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity. So this is leading up to he wants to see something of Krishna, right? Text number 2. And disappearance of every living entity, bhavapyayo hi bhutanam, and aham krishnasya jagata prabhava pralayastata, chapter 7, number 6, right? Meaning, verse number 6 of the 7th chapter, who knows the translation? Can read for me?
All created beings have their source in these two natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution.
Ah, yes. The origin and the dissolution. You see, it's all done by Krishna. We give the credit to Brahma and to Shiva. Actually, who's actually doing everything? It's Krishna. The initial creation is not done by Brahma, because Brahma himself has to be created. The initial creation is done by the Supreme Lord. He expands himself into the Purusha avatars, and the Purusha avatars, they initiate the creation. They manifest the material world and the different elements of creation. And then Lord Brahma takes birth, and Lord Brahma takes on the secondary part of creation, the Visarga. And he creates the different bodies of the living entities, and puts the universe, planets into positions, these things. But initially, it's all done by Krishna. Right? Okay, and then? So why did Arjuna ask to see the Vishwarup? He knows...
So that common men like us...
What?
So that common people like us can have a proof that Krishna is God, maybe?
Well, there are different reasons why Arjuna wants to see the Vishwarup. Of course, it's not really for the benefit of the devotees. But why is Arjuna asking to see that universal form? That he wants to use that to convince other people of Krishna's position. As described here, to establish Krishna's divinity for all. So that's important. Arjuna wants to convince everyone that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So if Krishna shows the universal form, then it's a very convincing argument that he is the Supreme. All right, and then the other reason, to convince others in future who may think Krishna is an ordinary person. Of course, we heard that in the 7th chapter. The monists, for example, the monists who are also even self-realized, they also think Krishna is an ordinary person. So we want to, Arjuna wants to convince people in the future of Krishna's actual position. And then to set a criterion. To set a criterion. What is that criterion? If somebody says that they're God, then they should show it. They have to prove it. If somebody says our Guru is an incarnation, then we want to see what is the qualification? What has he done? Or what can he do? So that form was exhibited by Krishna at the request of Arjuna, so that in the future, when one when one presents himself as an incarnation of God, people can ask to see the universal form. Usually we will ask, someone's an incarnation of God, it should be confirmed in the scriptures. Where does it say it in the scriptures? If someone's an actual incarnation of God, let us see it in the scriptures. Where does it say so in the scriptures? That's important. Right? It should be there. Okay, someone, can you read that text at the bottom there? From Bhagavad-Gita 11:5, 6.
Yes, Maharaj. The fact is that devotee is not concerned with seeing the Vishwarupa, the universal form, but Arjuna wanted to see it to a substantiate Krishna's statements, so that in the future people could understand that Krishna not only theoretically or philosophically presented himself as the supreme, but actually presented himself as such to Arjuna. Bhagavad-Gita 11.8 purport.
Okay, right. So theoretically and philosophically, anybody can do that. Anybody can theoretically or philosophically present themselves as being God. But we want to see the reasons. We want to see it practically. That how is it that someone is actually God? Not just speaking. We want to see. Show us. So Arjuna admits his limitations. Text number 4. Please read text number 4.
Manyase yadi chakyam maya drushtum iti prabho yogeshwara tato me tvam darshayatmanam avyayam. If you think that I am not able to behold your cosmic form, O my Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then kindly show me that unlimited universal self. 11.4 Bhagavad-Gita.
Right. If you think that I am able to behold it, then show me that. Right? So that's Arjuna requesting Krishna. So that's being requested by Arjuna. In the next 4 verses, Krishna attracts Arjuna's attention towards him. How's he going to do that? How's Krishna going to attract Arjuna's attention towards him?
By showing him universal form.
Yes, right. Right. Okay. Like to read?
Yes, ma'am. Everything is situated in one place in my body. O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything moving and non-moving is here completely in one place. Bhagavad-Gita 11.7.
So whatever you may desire to see, now or in the future, it's all there. And so that you can see it, Krishna says, I give you divine eyes. Yes, please read.
Divyam dadami te chakshuhu pashyame yogam aishwaram. I give you divine eyes, behold my mystic opulence. Bhagavad-Gita 11.8.
So, Arjuna is being given special eyes, special vision, so that he can actually see this universal form of Lord Krishna. So, here's a question. Yes?
Maharaj, before seeing Krishna's universal form, can you please help us that how I make how make my eyes like this? So whatever we hear, the picture goes in our eyes like this is that Krishna's universal form. So how should be our eyes like? We are gonna see universal form of Krishna.
Well, that's not really our desire as devotees. We're
Yes.
already seeing Krishna's two-arm form in the three-bow bending form. Why would want to see the universal form? I don't know.
No, I don't want to see Maharaj, but the chapter is saying that we are gonna see. Devotees doesn't desire to go for this. This is for other people, to show them, to prove them, to give them one proof that yes, that is clear that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But still, even so, as Krishna is saying to Arjuna, I give you divine eyes. So I was thinking that we are also practicing. So how should I make my eyes to see? Like, so I asked Maharaj. This is clear to me. Yes, devotees are always attracted to Sham Sundar form of Krishna. Sham Sundar.
So you want to, what do you want then?
So as Krishna is saying, Arjuna, that I give you divine eyes, and we are also going to read it. So whatever we read, that is visualized. So I was thinking like that what was our vision to see this all?
Well, you have to understand this actually is not divine eyes, but it's more heavenly vision. Because Arjuna's already got divine eyes, because he's able to see Krishna in his sweetest form. Krishna's directly standing before him, and Arjuna's able to relish the sweet form of Lord Krishna. So he's already got divine vision, but if he wants to see that universal form, that Yogam Aishwaram, it's not exactly divine, although it's mentioned Divyam Dadami Te Chaksu, it appears divine, but Valadeva Vidyabhusan said it's actually heavenly vision to see the universal form. Because the universal form is material, it's not spiritual. I say, well, is it spiritual? In some ways it's spiritual, but at the same time it's material. It's temporary. It's the form of the Lord, but anyway, you want to see, somebody wants to see that universal form, you can see it by the grace of Krishna. You have to get the grace of Krishna. Krishna can give you divine eyes to see it, just like he gave Arjuna divine eyes.
Thank you.
So you have to consider, is that the goal? You just want to see the universal form? You can go and see the Lord in his threefold bending form in the temple. It's much more attractive, much more pleasing.
Yes, Maharaj.
You can see the Lord in the temple. Somebody wants to see the universal form. Generally, these are the people who they can't understand the Lord in his deity form. So they can see the Lord in the universal form. Anyway, what can we say? You want to see the universal form, you have to please Krishna. You have to, by the grace of Krishna. Arjuna could get the grace of Krishna. You want to see Krishna's universal form, you have to also get the grace of Krishna. It's that simple.
Thank you, Maharaj. We will see Sham Sundar form.
Yes. Okay, so here's a question for you. That defeat. How will you defeat this person? Some impostor says, I am God. And we say, oh, fine, show me your universal form. So then the person said, but you must have the eyes to see it. So then you say, then give me the eyes, as you gave Arjuna. But the impostor says, first you must surrender like Arjuna. So what do you say after that? You understand?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, how many people are here?
12, Maharaj.
12.
Yes.
Okay, so then 3 people in each group, so 4 groups.
Yes.
See if you can get a solution to this.
Please accept the request to join the group. Srimati Mataji, can you please join your room?
Okay, I think we'll close it, Maharaji. Don't want to spend too much time on this. How long have they had?
Around 7-8 minutes.
Okay, I think that's long enough, yeah.
Everybody is back, Maharaj.
Well, thank you. Okay. Right, so who's Rasa Raman Krishna?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Maharaj. I'm Ras Raman Krishna Das.
Yes, Prabhu, would you like to tell us what you discussed today?
Yes, Maharaj. I was with Aradhe Gadadhar Prabhu and Bhumika Sevika Mataji. So, Aradhe Gadadhar Prabhu was saying that, yes, I agree with him. That person would definitely first ask impostor to prove that he is God by giving Shastric evidences. So unless and until he gives Shastric evidences, that person cannot surrender just like Arjuna. Because if he wants to surrender just like Arjuna, he will have to first see that person as Krishna. That's my opinion also.
Okay. But so you're saying that in the Bhagavad-Gita, when Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, he already knew that Krishna was God?
Yes, to some extent, not absolutely, but to some extent.
Maharaj, actually, in the conversation I was telling, that of course, although Krishna did surrender to Arjuna in the second chapter, but here regarding the universal form, this universal form conversation has come in the 11th chapter. Before this, there is a 10th chapter in which Arjuna has already confirmed that you are the Param Brahma, Param Dhamam. And this thing, not only I am saying because I am your friend, all the great sages like Deval, Asit, Narada, Vyas, they all have confirmed this. So before I surrender to you and then you show me your universal form after I surrender to you, first of all, you prove that why should I surrender to you? Is there any proof? Has any sage said your name that you will be getting, that you are Supreme God? Or is there any description in any of the Vedic scriptures that you are the Supreme God? Then only the question of surrender comes, and then only the question of universal form comes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yes, sounds reasonable. Yes, I'd like to hear from other groups. Rukmini, Maharaji?
Yes, Maharaj, I was getting one point like Arjuna has already surrendered in the second chapter only that, okay, Krishna, now I'm totally bewildered. Then when Krishna was smiling, he said that Shishyasti aham, Shishyasya aham. So he has already surrendered. So he would say in the next dialogue, he would say, Krishna, I have already surrendered to you. Now please show me. That's why you have already given me so much knowledge. Now we have come to the, as Prabhuji is saying, Aradhe Gadadhar Prabhuji is saying that in the 10th chapter, I came to the second chapter that he has already surrendered. That's why Krishna has already given so much knowledge. He has given the even most confidential knowledge. Now we have come to the only Vishwarupa.
So does he have a right to see the Vishwarup?
Sorry, Maharaj, didn't get.
Does he have a right? You know, isn't it his right to see the Vishwarup? Because someone's saying he's God, you know, so okay, so if you're God, prove it, you know, show the Vishwarup.
Yes. Yes, we will. Yes, yes, Maharaj. Right. He said like we will say that yes, we have already surrendered to you. We agree you. Okay, now please you show us the, and then he will not be able to. What will he do? He will pose like to artificial arms, and what will he do? Make a artificial light from the theater. Like he will not be able. So he will come into this type, this like this we will grasp him that he's not God.
Okay, so you will exposure to that he's not actually God. It's difficult to deal with these kind of people. In Kali Yuga, you know, people don't admit defeat. You can argue with them for a long time. Very difficult to get anybody to admit that they're actually wrong.
And Maharaj, I was getting one more point, that whenever somebody asks Prabhupada any question, Prabhupada, instead of giving answer, he used to counter question that person. Okay, you tell this. So that person is not able to answer the Prabhupada's question, and then he has to get convinced by Prabhupada that the cotton and the cotton shirt. Prabhupada said, no, you please tell me, is it the same? Cotton ball and the cotton shirt is same? No, you please tell me. So like this, that we can counter question also, as Prabhupada used to do.
No. Okay. Yes, good. I know one time in the UK, Prabhupada was in the program, and one man spoke up and he began to speak about how he was actually God. And he was going on, and then finally he stopped, and so then Prabhupada said, so you are God? And everybody just laughed. Everybody just laughed, the whole crowd, people, they all laughed. Prabhupada said, so you're God? Everybody's just laughing, because everybody knew it's so ridiculous. How could he be God?
Like this, Maharaj, I'm also remembering one very nice example. One person came and he claimed that I am God. So Prabhupada said his disciple to bring Mahaprasad. He said they fed him like anything. No, you eat this, that. He said, no, I'm done. Now I cannot eat more. No, you are God. You in Jagannath Puri, you are having Chappan Bhoga so many times. You have. So he said, no, my stomach is paining. God has to go to doctor also. So like this also.
Hare Krishna. Okay, any other comments? Anybody, other groups like to contribute what you just discussed about?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, may I say something?
Please, Mataji, yes.
I could only think of one point from shloka number 8, that here Arjuna, here Krishna, here there is no such a condition that one needs to surrender first and then Krishna will show his universal form. Because as it is, devotees are not asking, are not demanding to see Krishna's universal form. That person is claiming to be God, hence he is supposed to show him his universal form. Not that anybody needs to surrender him to first.
What is the 8th verse that you're talking about? Which 8th verse in the 11th chapter, is it?
Yes, Maharaj. But you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore, I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence.
So you're saying that we shouldn't have to surrender first?
Yes, Maharaj. In this particular shloka, surrender, there's nothing is told about being surrendering first.
It's just the Lord should give divine eyes. He wants to prove.
Yes, here it is written, devotees who are correctly situated in a transcendental relationship with Krishna are attracted by loving features, not by a godless display of opulences. Lord gave Arjuna the necessary power to see his universal form because he knew that Arjuna did not particularly want to see it.
Right. So the loving features, they're not there in the universal form. That's the godless display of opulence, that's the universal form, right? But the devotees are attracted to the loving features, the personal form of the Lord. Okay, Maharaji, thank you. It's a nice point. Yes, why you should surrender. You have a universal form, you should reveal it. You can give us divine eyes. It's not surrender. All right, anybody else? Anything? Okay, we'll go ahead. I give you the eyes of the Devas. The eyes of the Devas. There's a little difference. You see, this is Baladeva Vidyabhusan's explanation. He said, your eye, which is accustomed to see my sweetness, cannot see my universal form. Arjuna is seeing Krishna in his threefold bending form or his two-arm form. He's seeing the sweet form of Lord Krishna. And so he said, you cannot see my universal form. Therefore, I give you celestial eyes. He gave celestial eyes to Arjuna, not a celestial mind. If he gave that type of mind, Arjuna would take pleasure in that celestial form. This is Baladeva Vidyabhusan's reasoning. Arjuna is a devotee. So Lord Krishna gave Arjuna celestial eyes, but not a celestial mind. Because Arjuna has the mind of a devotee. So he's not, if Lord Krishna was to change the mind of Arjuna, then Arjuna would also take pleasure in seeing the universal form. So Lord Krishna doesn't want to change Arjuna's mind. Arjuna's mind is perfect the way it is, that he's a devotee. And he's the great associate of Lord Krishna. Wherever Lord Krishna goes, Arjuna goes with him. And Krishna will speak Bhagavad-Gita to him. So Lord Krishna is not going to change Arjuna's mind. He keeps it the way it is. But he gave him the eyes just to let him see. So this Baladeva Vidyabhusan's argument like this is interesting. Not divine eyes, but celestial eyes were given to Arjuna. Eyes like those of the demigods, the heaven. So why do devotees not care for the universal form? Right? Anybody could offer some... Do you have any replies to this? Why do you not care for the universal form?
Maharaj, actually it is not pleasurable to the devotees. Devotees don't get pleasure out of that universal form. That's why I think.
Well, you don't get pleasure. Maybe, but pleasure is different for different people, right? We could argue like that. You don't get pleasure. Somebody else may say, well, I get pleasure out of the universal form.
Maharaj, just like in the previous slide you saw, you showed us about the Baldev Vidyabhushan. Baldev Vidyabhushan said that Lord Krishna gave Arjuna the eyes to see the universal form, not the mind. So this is also a point. So something it is external, not internal, not enjoyable, not relishable.
But shouldn't we think, well, this is Krishna, we should also appreciate Krishna there, and we're supposed to be having devotion for Krishna, so we should appreciate the universal form.
Maharaj, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Maharaj,
devotees can definitely appreciate the universal form to acknowledge the supremacy of the Lord, but they don't aim for it, because for them they have the higher goal of pure devotional service. Like we studied in Nectar of Devotion, what is the importance of performing pure devotional service. So a devotee is actually concentrating on that aspect of bhakti, and he may appreciate, but he will not desire for that. That should not be the utmost desire of a devotee to just reach the destination of witnessing the universal form.
Aha, yes, right, that's the point. That the universal form, what are we going to do? We're just going to witness it, right? It's just something we're going to see. It's very difficult for us to actually engage in loving service to the universal form. You can see behind Prabhupada there's the form of Lord Jagannath, the deities are there. So the deities, they have form, and we can dress them, we can bathe them, we can cover them with sandalwood sometimes, and we can offer food to them. But to do those things to the universal form, not so possible, is it? So that's an important point there. Okay? Devotees who are correctly situated in a transcendental relationship with Krishna are attracted by loving features, not by a godless display of opulence. Loving features, that's the form of the deities, they present loving features. But the godless display of opulence, that is more the nature of the universal form. Some power there, right? And this is from the 49th verse of the 11th chapter, purport, where Prabhupada writes, a devotee is not much interested in the universal form, for it does not enable one to reciprocate loving feelings. Either a devotee wants to offer his respectful, worshipful feelings, or he wants to see the two-handed Krishna form so that he can reciprocate in loving service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, reciprocation with the Lord, that's very important. The loving exchange, the respectful, worshipful feelings, which we see when we see the deities, that's something very special. Arjuna doesn't feel quite the same when he sees the universal form. What's Arjuna's feelings when he sees the universal form? Anyone?
He gets scared, Maharaj.
He was scared.
He gets scared, yes. He fears it.
Yeah. It's not loving. He didn't feel some loving relationship. It's awe-inspiring and fearful. Yeah. It describes his body was trembling and hair standing on end. Like that. So Sanjay's description of Arjuna's vision. Arjuna's vision. Yes?
Maharaj, regarding this Baldev Vidyabhushan explanation, regarding, he gave him the eyes, the celestial eyes, but not the celestial mind. So, I just couldn't understand it completely, that the point that was to be proved in that how it would defy the argument that the impostor gave. So, if you could, give again.
Yeah, you couldn't understand this point of Baladeva Vidyabhusan?
No, Maharaj, if you could, again explain.
All right. Well, he was making the point that Arjuna is already seeing Lord Krishna in his sweet form, in his two-armed form. Right?
Yes,
Arjuna is already, he's the friend of Lord Krishna and their companions. So Arjuna is accustomed to seeing Lord Krishna in his two-armed form. And that is actually the supreme form of Lord Krishna, the two-armed form. And there's great sweetness in that two-armed form. But now Arjuna is going to see the universal form. Arjuna wanted to see this universal form. Therefore, in order to see it, it was described that the Lord had to give him special vision. He had to change the vision in order that he could see the universal form. Just like sometimes you go to movies, you know, and sometimes they'll give you glasses to wear when you watch the movie, and when you watch the movies you can see these creatures which are moving there, you know. With the help of special glasses you can see things on the screen. So the same way Arjuna, he wants to see the universal form. He was given, his vision was changed. So Baladeva Vidyabhusan, he says that Arjuna just needed to get celestial eyes. Celestial eyes means heavenly eyes. Eyes equal like those of the demigods. And so Arjuna, with eyes like the demigods, then he can see the universal form. But Baladeva Vidyabhusan goes on to make the point that Lord Krishna gave celestial eyes to Arjuna, but he didn't give him a celestial mind. And he makes the point that if he'd given him a celestial mind, then Arjuna would have enjoyed the universal form, because that's what the demigods, that's what they like. And they like to see that Vishwarup. And sometimes impersonalists and so on, they're fond of the universal form. Brahmagyanis like that. They like this idea of the universal form. So Arjuna would take more pleasure in that universal form if the Lord had changed his mind. But Lord Krishna didn't change his mind, he only changed his eyes. Is there any clearer, Prabhu? You can understand?
Yeah, I can understand. So from this, only the thing is that is confirmed is that Krishna's two-armed form is sweeter than Krishna's universal form.
Oh yeah.
For the devotees.
Yes.
So, but regarding the argument that, you know, how can I know that you are Supreme God? So, from this, can we infer that had you been an impostor, had the impostor been a god, then that person would have told him that had you been Krishna, then I would be satisfied by your this form only. I won't be requiring to see your universal form. Is this the argument that the person should be giving?
Well, yes, you could argue like that. That's one possible argument. That's a nice. Actually, that's a nice argument that's a nice way to respond. You know, we can respond in different ways to these kind of things. You know, people come up with these kind of foolish arguments. They want to be God. It's just some kind of exercise to get us thinking how to meet these kind of challenges, because these kind of challenges are going to come. You're going to meet people like that. You're going to get these kind of challenges. And we have to think how to deal with them.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay, so Arjuna's vision of the universal form is revealed to Dhritarashtra by Sanjay in 6 verses, 9 to 14.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes?
Can I ask a doubt?
Yeah?
Maharaj, like you said that devotees don't look forward to aim for witnessing the universal form, because there they cannot have any exchange. But like with the Narayan form of the Lord, the different types of Vishnus, and like when one goes to the Vaikuntha Lok, there the devotees can, one who reaches there in Vaikuntha also, they can have some exchanges. Like, is the universal form said to be different from the concept of Lord Narayan and Vishnu?
Oh yes, yes it is. The universal form is only in the material world. It's not in the spiritual world. right? The universal form is it's a material form as well, and it's here. It's not in the spiritual world. That's the main point. So it is very, very different from the form of Narayan and Krishna.
Okay, thank you.
Maharaj, again, Maharaj, again and again, I'm going to verse number 10.7. That one devotee has to be factually convinced of Krishna's opulence and mystic power, so that he will be engaged in unalloyed devotional service to him. There is no doubt. So again and again, I'm just thinking like we just have to convince ourselves for the tattva, but actually we have to, but at last we have to render unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. Am I thinking right, Maharaj? 10.7?
Yes, you're thinking right. Yes. We have to render unalloyed service to Krishna. That's the idea. Good. Okay, we're looking at these statements of Dhritarashtra describing, rather Sanjay describing to Dhritarashtra Arjuna's vision of the universal form. Yeah, this is verses 10 and 11. Arjuna saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes, unlimited wonderful visions. The form was decorated with many celestial ornaments and bore many divine upraised weapons. He wore celestial garlands and garments, and many divine scents were smeared over his body. All was wondrous, brilliant, unlimited, all expanding. So, read Prabhupada, how Prabhupada talks about this.
If we want to dress somebody, he must be a person. So even in the universal form, there is a personality. Divya Malya, Divya Gandha, Kirtina, dressed, well dressed. Well dressed is possible not in the impersonal. If you want to dress somebody, he must be a person. You cannot dress in the sky. Here is a helmet, here is a garland. Where you put? Prabhupada is laughing. So, in the universal form also, there is a personality. It's from Morning Walk, April 4, 1974.
Thank you. So Prabhupada speaking about this universal form. As we just read, the descriptions there, the form in the universal form, that he's well decorated and dressed, he has a helmet, he has a garland. So, the universal form, there is personality. There's a personality. Who is that personality? Of course, that is the Supreme Lord. So sometimes people claim that it's simply oneness, that there's no personality. There's simply the Brahman, and there's no personality. And they want to merge into that universal form and become one and lose their individuality. That is the impersonalist idea. They like the universal form. The monists, they're very fond of contemplating the universal form. It's very convenient. They think about entering into that oneness of the Vishwarup and losing their individuality. But Prabhupada said, no, it's not like that. Keep reading. Arjuna could see.
Others on the battlefield could not see this form because Krishna gave the vision only to Arjuna. Sitting on his chariot, Arjuna could see all these, but no one could understand what was going on between Arjuna and Krishna. Perfect. 11.30.
So here, only Arjuna could see. But later on, we'll see other people, the demigods and so on, they were all seeing. So Arjuna could see all this, and who else could see it?
Sanjay?
Sanjay, right, yeah, because he's describing to Dhritarashtra. So definitely he was also seeing it. Yes? Somebody read the verse? Eleven 14.
Tata sa vismaya vishta Rama Dhananjaya Pranamya Shirisa Devam Pitanjali Abhasata. Then, bewildered and astonished, his hair standing on end, Arjun bowed his head to offer obeisances and with folded hands began to pray to the Supreme Lord.
So Arjuna's reaction on seeing this universal form, bewildered, astonished, hair standing on end, and Arjuna is bowing and offering obeisances. So he's certainly appreciating the position of the Lord. Yes? Go on reading, Prabhu.
Once the divine vision is revealed, the relationship between Krishna and Arjuna changes immediately. Before, Krishna and Arjuna had a relationship based on friendship. But here, after the revelation, Arjuna is offering obeisances with great respect. And with folded hands, he is praying to Krishna. He is praising the universal form. Thus, Arjuna's relationship becomes one of wonder rather than friendship.
So there are different rasas. There are 5 direct rasas, and then there are 7 indirect rasas. So friendship is one of the direct rasas, sakyaras. Bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hi etad uttamam. In the Bhagavad-Gita, Lord Krishna had glorified Arjuna that because you're my devotee as well as my friend, therefore you can understand this knowledge. So Arjuna was in sakyaras with Krishna. And having a friendly relationship with someone, usually, we'll think of ourselves as being equals. But here, you can see there's a change in the relationship. And now, instead of friendship, it's become one of wonder. Why? What happened? Why the change?
Because previously Arjuna was thinking that Krishna is just my friend, as he says that I was please forgive me, Krishna, that I used to make fun of you, I used to sleep on the same bed with you. So he was in friendship like equality. But now, after seeing like he's Aishwarya, this has come. It's not now pure friendship.
It's not pure friendship.
Means Maharaj, that Aishwarya or what? Like with the Brajvasis, Krishna is holding Govardhan, they will also put the stick. And they will never ever agree that Krishna is a god. If Krishna perform any pastime, they will say, yeah, he is a Devta and we are also Devas. So like this. But here Arjuna has gone like...
Yes, because what happened? What changed Arjuna?
Maharaj, revelation of the universal form.
Yes, right. Because of seeing Krishna display the Vishwarup. So that's what influenced the thinking of Arjuna. That Arjuna experienced a change, that he thought, oh, I have to be very careful, as Mataji was saying, that Arjuna felt, oh, I've disrespected Krishna, that we would lay on the same bed and we would eat together, and sometimes I would even joke with him and tease him. And so Arjuna was regretting. He's become now one of wonder, appreciating the greatness of Krishna. That he understood, Krishna is great, but actually when you actually saw the Vishwarup and seeing then it really influenced the thinking of Arjuna, and it became more wonder. I think just like sometimes Lord Nrsingadev appears also, we say Adbhuta Shringa. Huh? Adbhuta Shringa, Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringa. So Adbhuta Shringa, wonder. With wonder, Lord Nrsingadev appears out with wonder. So here Arjuna is seeing Krishna also with wonder. That, wow, he's so great, so powerful, so much energy, so many potencies. So this is bewildering to the mind of Arjuna. All right, a little exercise for you again to get you thinking more. Arjuna was overwhelmed by seeing the universal form of Krishna. Can anyone remember a time when they were overwhelmed by awe and wonder? What was it like? Was it a humbling experience? How was the cause of the occurrence connected, if at all, with Krishna? And what did you learn from that experience? Anybody have anything to offer in this regard? Can you think of anything? Did you ever have an experience like that? When you're overwhelmed by awe and wonder?
Yes, Maharaj. For me, when I first time saw His Holiness the power of Krishna the Swami Maharaj, and I came to know that who the personality is standing in front of me. That time I was also a bit struck with awe and wonder, and it was indeed an humbling experience.
Okay. Yes.
So,
So what did you learn? What did you learn from that? What did you learn from that experience?
So what I learned is just at that time I just knew who the personality is standing in front of me. That he is this, and he is this. But later on, when I started, having whenever I used to meet him or whenever I used to have conversations with him, and sweet conversations with him, then that relationship of awe and wonder, of course it is still there, but still it became more lovable. Rather, it was not only awe and wonder, but there was love also involved.
Okay, thank you.
Maharaj, like seeing some senior devotee in when he's chastising someone, like even I was chastised by one senior devotee. So what happens that at that time it is like of awe and wonder, and it was more than like feeling having a humbling experience. It was more on the fear side, and it was that you should not be in front of that devotee at when he's angry, like. So it was more of like escapist feeling as compared to being humble.
You shouldn't be in front of that devotee when he's angry. Keep out of the way when he's angry. Yeah, it's natural, right? Yeah, I remember also even sometimes Prabhupada would be angry, and I would just keep out the way. Keep out the way. Don't want to be walking around. There was one devotee, Vatsal Prabhu. He left the body about maybe some months ago, He was a very old Prabhupada disciple. Anyway, Vatsal, he was there in Vrindavan, and Prabhupada wasn't in a very good mood. He was at there was a lot of things wrong, and Prabhupada was really upset, and he was really chastising devotees and stuff. and Prabhupada was walking around, and Vatsal saw him and said, "Jai Prabhupada," and Prabhupada looked at him and said, "And you do something useful." Prabhupada just looked him in the eyes and said, "And you do something useful."
Is it the Vishal Prabhu you're talking about when he was glorifying Prabhupada and he was circumambulating?
Yeah, right, yeah. So that was, it's interesting, so, how Prabhupada deal with people, different moods. Yeah, anybody else? When you were overwhelmed, I mean, overwhelming experience, you could get overwhelming experience, maybe when you went to Jagannath Puri and you saw Rath Yatra, and you saw the chariot so huge and the deities so huge and the crowd of people so massive, so many people. And then when the chariots begin to roll, it's so powerful. Well, it's really overwhelming. And very wonderful, and wonderful. I think also when we bathe the Panchatattva deities here in Mayapur, when they would bathe the Panchatattva deities, when we had the installation, and then after 5 years they had again Abhishek. So it's also very powerful, very wonderful, awe-inspiring, seeing all the devotees, how all the devotees were around the deities, so many of the senior GBC men and the Gurukula boys as well, and Gopal Krishna Maharaj and Sridhar Swami and Jaipataka Maharaj, they were all there bathing the deities. Very wonderful. Your Maharaji's, anything on this?
Maharaj, whenever I see getting my desires fulfilled spiritually, and over a period of time we see the change happening, and someday we think about it, then we realize, oh, it's so wonderful. It was not even possible to happen, but Krishna made it possible. So at that point of time, I feel Krishna can really do anything.
What did he do?
There are so many examples, Maharaj. Everything he is doing. If I am able to chant, if we are able to practice our spiritual life, that is all by his mercy. Otherwise, we would not be able to do anything.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes you may be asked to stand up in front of people and to speak about Krishna consciousness. It can be overwhelming sometimes. Maybe you're in front of a lot of maybe important people, and you're asked to stand up and you have to address them and speak. So, yeah, it can be overwhelming. But it's also a humbling experience to be in front of so many people and to have to present Krishna consciousness.
Maharaj, I have one experience when first time I saw elephant procession and all Gurukul boys, and they were doing, and in the properly Vedic attire they were, and so it was really overwhelming. And one was like when there was a boat festival, so it was also like bhogas, so many bhogas are coming, they are offering, then they are distributing among devotees, and devotees are very much pleased to have that Mahaprasad of deities. Everyone is so joyful. So that two things, Maharaj.
Yes, very nice, right. Boat festival. Sometimes also Rath Yatras are like that. I think Was it Ludhiana? They have a big Rath Yatra and they had a lot of prasadam distribution. The whole route, they were distributing prasadam. People would come out, almost every shop, they would come out with big offerings and distribute. Overwhelming. And establishing the deities, seeing the new deity. When we established the big deities here in Mayapur, Radha Madhava, because initially we just had small deities, but when they brought the big deities, Radha Madhava, wow, that was amazing. And then after bringing the big deities, then they added the Astasakis. Oh, it was so amazing. And then they brought the Panchatattva. Oh, it was overwhelming. So many experiences just to see that the deities are so huge and so powerful and so brilliant and effulgent. So it's very wonderful experience. Certainly a very humbling experience because we understand how insignificant we are and what can we do on our own. That what kind of service can we offer to these deities? We're very helpless.
Much similarly, when we read the story of installation of Nrsimhadev in Mayapur, reading in itself, can give you goosebumps and make you realize how everything fell into place and how all pieces came together of that puzzle. That's one amazing Leela, we can say.
Yes, Lord Nrsimhadev coming to Mayapur also, very special. Very, very special. Okay, well then we'll go ahead. Arjuna described the universal form of the Lord in 17 verses, from 15 up to 31. Arjuna describes the universal form. Maybe could we just read these verses? Let's hear the descriptions, just the translations, not the Sanskrit. Number 15. Everyone.
Arjuna said, one by one we can.
Yeah.
Arjuna said, my dear Lord Krishna, I see assembled in your body all the demigods and various other living entities. I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, as well as Lord Shiva and all the sages and divine serpents.
Yes. Somebody else, go ahead.
O Lord of the universe, O universal form, I see in your body many, many arms, bellies, mouths, and eyes, expanded everywhere without limit. I see in you no end.
Yes. 17.
Your form is difficult to see because of its glaring effulgence, spreading on all sides like blazing fire or the immeasurable radiance of the sun. Yet I see this glowing form everywhere, adorned with various crowns, clubs, and discs.
Okay, thank you. 18.
You are without origin, middle, or end. Your glory is unlimited. You have numberless arms, and the sun and moon are your eyes. I see you with blazing fire coming forth from your mouth, burning this entire universe by your own radiance.
19.
You are the supreme primeval objective. You are the ultimate resting place of all this universe. You are inexhaustible and you are the oldest. You are the maintainer of the eternal religion and the personality of Godhead. This is my opinion.
Although you are one, you spread throughout the sky and the planets and all space between. O great one, seeing this wondrous and terrible form, all the planetary systems are perturbed.
All the hosts of demigods
Please go ahead, Madhu.
all the hosts of demigods are surrendering before you and entering into you, some of them very much afraid.
All the hosts of demigods are surrendering before you and entering into you. Some of them, very much afraid, are offering prayers with folded hands. Hosts of great sages and perfected beings crying all peace are praying to you by singing the Vedic hymns.
All the various manifestations of Lord Shiva, the Adityas, the Vasus, the Sadhyas, the Vishwadevas, the two Ashvis, the Maruts, the forefathers, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, the Asuras, and the perfected demigods are beholding you in wonder.
O mighty armed one, all the planets with their demigods are disturbed at seeing your great form with its many faces, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, and bellies, and your many terrible teeth. And as they are disturbed, so am I.
O
Oh,
all
all
pervading.
pervading. Sorry.
Yes, Mataji, please
Please,
go ahead.
Prabhuji, you go after that. I'll do.
O all-pervading Vishnu, see you with your many radiant colors touching the sky, your gaping mouths, and your great glowing eyes. My mind is perturbed by fear. I can no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind.
O Lord of Lords, O refuge of worlds, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance seeing thus your blazing death-like faces and awful teeth. In all directions I am bewildered.
All the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings and Bhishma, Dhruna, and Karna, and our chief soldiers also are rushing into your fearful mouths, and some I see trapped with their heads smashed between your teeth.
As the many waves of the rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors enter blazing into your mouths.
O Vishnu, I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths and moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire.
O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people from all sides with your flaming mouths, covering all the universe with your effulgence. You are manifest with terrible scorching rays.
O
O
Lord of
Lord of
Lords,
Lords, oh so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. You are the primal Lord. I want to know about you, for I don't know what your mission is.
Okay. So thank you. Yes. We can hear, this is actually description of the Kala Roop, the form of time, right? Because you're hearing about the destruction of so many great warriors, how they're all entering into the mouths of the Lord. They're all becoming food for the Lord. Bhishma and Drona and all the so many others, they're all entering in there. They're all being smashed by the teeth of the universal form. So this is Kala Roop. So Arjuna asks the question about, who are you? Tell me who you are. So before we look at that, just to raise a question, did anyone else see the Vishwaroop? So here's a quote here from Baladeva Vijayabhusan's commentary on the Bhagavad-Gita, 11, verse number 20. Someone can read for us?
the Devas,
Carry on, Mataji.
you read, Prabhuji, please.
The Devas, Asuras, Gandharvas, Kinnars, and others who were friendly or neutral had gathered for seeing war. They also were given celestial eyes by the Lord to see this form. If only Arjuna could see that form, it would have been like a sleeping person seeing chariots or other objects in a dream, while others could not see them. The Lord made this display so that many others could bear witness to his powers. Bhagavad-Gita 11.20. Baldev Vidyabhushan commentary.
So Baladeva Vidyabhusan is stating here that these other demigods who were all there, who had come to witness the event, the Kurukshetra war, whatever, that they could also see this Vishwarup. And he mentions here, he says that the Lord gave them celestial eyes. So they were already demigods and they had special vision as demigods, but still he says they were given celestial eyes just to see the form. So some special qualification is there to actually see the universal form. But he argues that if they did not see the form, then Arjuna seeing the form would just be like something in a dream, and no one else could support that he was actually seeing it. Just like a dream is a very personal thing. We have our dream, we have the dream, nobody else has it. But this universal form, it's there for others also, that others also could bear witness to this. The Lord made this display so that many others could bear witness to his powers. Is that clear to everyone? Okay?
Yes, Maharaj.
And Arjuna's vision of the Vishwarup, verses 26 and 27, we heard here, all the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings, Bhishma, Dhruna, Karna, and our chief soldiers also are rushing into your fearful mouths, and some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. Ooh, not a very pleasant thing to see. You know, to have to see these things is certainly not very pleasant. And when they're people you know, especially not very pleasant. Of course, why is this being shown to Arjuna? What's the reason?
To show him that Krishna has already killed everyone, and Arjun, you just have to, time is separating. You just have to become the, what do we say, Nimit Matra. I'm forgetting the English word for that.
Instrument,
Yeah,
medium.
instrument.
Right, become the instrument in my service. Okay, so yes.
Just
right.
one question in regard to this.
Okay.
Maharaj, like here, this thing is mentioned that some are trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. So, I mean, not everyone, but only some. So, is there any special significance of this thing that only a handful of people are smashed between? And does it convey something, or it's just, just a normal description?
Yeah, I don't see any special significance in it, that they're being smashed between your teeth. Some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. We could say, well, this is a warning that they're going to die maybe on the battlefield, and their death is not going to be very pleasant. Unless you're really in the Kshatriya mood, to be killed on the battlefield, cut to pieces and chopped up, and not very pleasant. Not a very pleasant state of affairs and to leave the body. But for a Kshatriya, of course, it's glorious like that. Your head smashed between your teeth.
And one is like, in this regard, we also hear that barbaric saying that everything was ultimately killed by Krishna only, and all the Pandavas were just an instrument. So, of course, we hear from the Bhishma Pitama's conversation in first canto that many of the soldiers, either from Kauravas or Pandavas, went to the spiritual world. So, like, if we say that everyone was in a way killed by Krishna only, So does that mean Krishna's form of time, or Krishna himself killed all of them? What does that mean? Because if Krishna himself killed all of them, then everyone would be liberated.
I'm sorry, I'm not picking up everything you're saying, Prabhu. What was the point about the last part there about Krishna liberated?
I'm saying that, that we hear that barbaric saying that ultimately everyone was killed by Krishna. So when he refers to this, so does that mean Krishna himself personally killed them, or the time form of Krishna killed them?
Oh,
because
of
if
course.
personally Krishna killed them, then everyone will be liberated.
Well, Krishna is just simply he's the overseer, right? He's not actually doing anything, and he also promised he wasn't going to fight. He made a vow that he wouldn't fight, that he'd just come as the charioteer of Arjuna. It was Arjuna who was doing all the killing, but to get liberated, you just have to die in front of Krishna. So it's not that Krishna has to kill them for them to be liberated, but if they die, if they give up their bodies in the presence of Krishna, then that's sufficient for their liberation.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Krishna doesn't have to, he doesn't pick up the weapons, he doesn't run around killing the people. It's got Arjuna doing that. He wants Arjuna to get the credit, right? And that was the whole point. That's why Krishna, he wants the devotee to be glorified. He doesn't want to get any credit himself. Of course, Krishna could have killed everyone. He could have done it all easily. But he wanted Arjuna to get the credit. He wanted it to be done by the Pandavas. He wanted it to happen that way. Krishna had already done a lot of fighting, and he killed a lot of demons when he was in Vrindavan in his childhood Leela. And then he went to Dwarka and he had some problems there with different demons also. But now at times Kurukshetra, when he comes for Kurukshetra, it's Arjuna who's got to do the work. And Krishna had prepared, in some ways they'd prepared Arjuna for that. It said when he went out hunting, sometimes Arjuna would go out hunting, and Lord Krishna would be eager to see that Arjuna had the courage to kill. Because as a Kshatriya, he can't be afraid. And that's the system. Prabhupada talks about the kings of Jaipur, that in the past, the great kings of Jaipur, that before they became the king, they'd be given a sword and they would go out into the jungle and they had to hunt a tiger or something, kill a tiger or a lion or something. And they'd bring the head of the animal back and have it stuck up on the wall. But they had to do that, they had to show their courage. And so similarly, Arjuna, before the battle of Kurukshetra, he was going out, he went out and Krishna went with him. And it's described there how Arjuna he had to hunt wild animals who were disturbing the peace and giving trouble to the sages and so on. So Arjuna would kill the wild animals. This was his training, his preparation for the battle of Kurukshetra, because he's going to go out on the battle of Kurukshetra and he has to kill wholesale. You can't be sentimental during the wartime. You have to fight, you have to kill. So Arjuna had to do that. Lord Krishna is not going to do it for him.
Okay, Maharaj. And so almost everyone died in front of Krishna. So does it mean all of them went to the spiritual abode?
Yes.
Or just the Sayuji Mukti?
Just what?
Or just the Sayuji Mukti?
Sayuji Mukti.
What did they go? Which kind of liberation? Did they went to the spiritual world or?
It would depend a lot on their mental condition and their, where they're at, what is their position, what is their condition. Some people would get Sayuja Mukti generally, like the demons killed by Krishna they get Sayuja Mukti. People killed on the battlefield at Kurukshetra, where do they go? It will depend on what kind of mood they have. Are they devotees of Krishna? Were they But then you have also people like Abhimanyu. Who was Abhimanyu? You know, some of these people who'd come, they were demigods. Some of them were demigods, and they came. You know, Lord Krishna came, he ordered the demigods to take birth in the Yadu dynasty, and they should come and take part in the pastimes of Lord Krishna. So different demigods all came and took birth there. And so after they finished the pastime, they would go back to the heavenly abode to continue as a demigod for some time. Like Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu was he was the son of the sun god. And so the sun god was very attached. Huh?
I guess moon god, Maharaj.
Moon god?
Yes, Maharaj.
Moon god, is it? Okay. And so they were very attached. His father was very attached. They said, anyway, they said, bring him back, let him come back quick. And so that was why he had an early death in the battle of Kurukshetra. So he could go back to the heavenly abode to be there with his father, with his parents.
So then in these cases, after, fulfilling their role as a demigod, will they then afterwards go to spiritual world? Because we see that Abhimanyu was indeed, his spiritual master was, Krishna himself, who taught him all the, that art of military science. And he was a devotee of Krishna. So will these demigods go to backward after fulfilling their duty as a demigod?
Well, yeah, it will depend. If you go to the heavenly planets, then it takes longer to go back to, you have to wait for the end of the life of Brahma. Maybe from the planets from Swarga Loka, they have to go up to the higher planets and finally go up to Satyaloka and wait there with Lord Brahma and wait for the end of Lord Brahma's life. And when Lord Brahma leaves the planet, then maybe you go with him and you can go back to Godhead at that time. It's not so clear, how some people, of course, they're killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and they may immediately go back to Godhead. They don't go to heaven. They go immediately back to Godhead.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So that is the benefit of Lord Krishna being there on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, that they were all liberated. Now, liberated could also mean that they simply take birth again, but they take birth again without so much influence of the modes of nature. And they're given a better chance to perfect their devotional service. Liberated does not necessarily mean that they get their Swarupa. It simply can mean they got free of passion and ignorance, come to a higher level of material consciousness. All right, so these next few verses, there's 32 to 34, very important. Krishna is explaining that he is time and that Arjuna should become an instrument in the service of Lord Krishna. What does it mean to be an instrument in the service of Krishna? Anyone?
Maharaj, it means that already everything was planned. Everything was designed. Arjun just had to play the role of performer. He had to just execute everything which was planned beforehand.
Yes, that's good. But very nice understanding. If you are an instrument, the instrument in the hands of someone, the instrument doesn't have any consciousness. It doesn't have really, and it's not the instrument will say, oh, I don't like this, or I don't want to do that. You're in the hands of someone, and whatever the person who's holding you is going to do, that's what happens. You have no independence. You have no free will. You're simply surrendered to the person who's holding the instrument. And so in this case, who is the craftsman who's holding the instrument?
Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Krishna, he's the expert craftsman and he's arranging everything. So Arjuna was told, just become an instrument. Arjuna was worried, that maybe he thought maybe we won't win the battle. This army of the Pandavas was much smaller in comparison to the army of the Kauravas. So maybe Arjuna is thinking that, it would be doubtful if they could win the battle because so many great generals are opposing them. Bhishma and Dhruna and Karna are all there on the other side. So Arjuna would be doubtful about victory. But Krishna said, just become an instrument. And Krishna is encouraging Arjuna by showing him the Kala Rup, that they're all put to death. All of these people are going to die. Why? Why were they all going to die? Why was Bhishma and Drona going to die?
Because Krishna has already killed them.
Why?
They were destined to die. As
Why?
per the plan of Lord Krishna.
No, yeah, but there's a reason.
Because they had. Yes, Mataji. Because they had supported the adharma, irreligion, in the assembly of Kauravas. When Draupadi was, she was chastised. She was being chastised.
Yes, that's right. Because they did not do anything to support or to protect Draupadi. They simply stood by and let the Kauravas disrobe her and manhandle her and untie her hair. So Lord Krishna didn't like that. That they did not voice their disapproval, and they did not come to her protection. So therefore they were all going to die. It was their punishment for allowing that to happen. Okay, yes, Mataji. Yes, go ahead, Mataji.
Mataji,
Okay, Mataji, you ask. It's okay.
I am just saying, Maharaj, I was saying that they forget the dharma. Dharma is to protect the brahmana, protect the women, protect the cows. They forget that, and this was and what they followed, that was the lower reason. They were the lower principle actually, and they forgot the main dharma.
Yes. What was the main dharma?
Main dharma was like Brahman should be protected, women should be protected, cows should be protected, and there are, I think, 7 things, and I'm not able to recall all the names.
Okay,
Maharaj,
all right. Okay,
they should.
Okay, they should have protected Draupadi, yeah?
Yes.
And so they were negligent of the religious principles.
Yes.
Yeah?
Mataji, please.
Yes, any other point?
My question was, like you were asking why Bhishma and Dhruna were killed. So one reason is this, what Mataji gave, that that they were on the side with Dharma. But Maharaj, won't their past deeds would come into question here as well? For example, Bhishma Dev was a Vasu who was cursed.
Bhishma Dev was what?
I think he was a Vasu who was cursed.
He was a Vasu who was cursed.
Yes, Maharaj.
I
mean, I am right now, I cannot recall the exact story on my feet here, but he was the 8th Vasu who had to live his life as a celibate. I cannot recall properly. But won't that also come into consideration here? Or we would just look at the present scenario? I mean, like in terms of Mahabharata, of course.
Well, yes, definitely. Lord is talking to Arjuna. He wants Arjuna to be confident of his victory, and he wants to understand that all these people there who have come on the battlefield, they're all going to die, whether Arjuna fights or not. So that was really the thinking. It wasn't a question. Of course, you could say, well, everybody's going to die anyway, right? We all have a material body, and the death rate is 100%. And Prabhupada would often say, death rate is the same it's always been, 100%. Everyone dies. You take birth, means you have to die. So they're all going, it's a question of when are they going to die and how are they going to die? So they've come to fight on the battlefield, and they're going to die on the battlefield. That was the point Krishna was making. And whether Arjuna does it or not, it's going to happen. But Krishna wants Arjuna to take up the service. He should recognize that he has a duty to perform, and he should take up that service.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, text 32, someone can read?
श्री भगवान उवाच कालो अस्मि लोकस्य कृत प्रवर्धो लोकं समार्थम इह प्रवर्तः अर्थे अपि त्वां न भविष्यन्ति सर्वे ये स्थितः प्रयतानिकेषु योधः. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. Hare Krishna.
So this is Lord Krishna's confident, he's confident, and he wants to encourage Arjuna. And well, Arjuna had, of course, he had asked Krishna to identify who he was, and then he also wanted to know, what is your mission? So Lord Krishna says, I'm time, and what is his mission? He said, I've come here to destroy all people. He's come where? Come to Kurukshetra, to destroy all people, except for the Pandavas. All the soldiers on both sides will be slain. Of course, that was part of the reason why the Lord appeared in the world, right? The earth was overburdened by so many demoniac kings, and Lord Krishna has to arrange for the removal of that burden from the earth. The Lord's mission was to relieve the earth of all these people, demonic kings, overburdening the earth. And that Kurukshetra war was the Lord's arrangement for removing a vast number of all of these kings. Bring everyone together and let them all, give up their bodies, leave the world. And Prabhupada also says, like sometimes, things like an airplane carrying hundreds of people. He said sometimes the airplane will crash. He said it's a similar kind of event. Or more than 100 years ago, there was a Titanic. There was that amazing big ship which sailed from England, and it went across the Atlantic. And on the very first voyage, it hit an iceberg, and the whole ship sank, and hundreds of people all died. Many important men, because they didn't have any. They had hardly any life raft or little boats to help the people. So people all drowned. So Krishna sometimes arranges these things just to relieve the burden, to take away people from the earth. And 5,000 years ago, it was Kurukshetra, the demonic kings, the Kshatriyas. They would all come, they'd all been called. It was time for them to give up their material bodies. And everyone, except for the Pandavas, they're all going to be slain.
Maharaj, I had one question in this. Like Krishna here, we see that those who were on the side of Adharma, so Krishna arranged for them to be killed. He arranged everyone to come at one place. but we see like sometimes even when devotees like those who are in ISKCON, those are practicing Krishna consciousness, they went on some yatra, and we hear of a mishappening. Like I remember like some devotees in Chowpatty temple, they went to Kathmandu and Nepal, and they had boarded a local airplane, so that crash and many devotees died in that. So how can we understand that that kind of event?
Yes, well, you can understand that it's also for the devotees, it's an arrangement of Krishna, because they're on a yatra. I remember that it was a very small flight. There was only a few
Yes,
people
Maharaj.
in the plane, right? And some people survived, but somehow the devotees died. You can see that's the arrangement of Krishna to take them out of the material world. And to die on pilgrimage is very auspicious. It's a very good way to leave the body, actually. They say there are some auspicious ways to meet death, just like they say if you die in the Ganga, that's also considered good. And so, but to die on pilgrimage, that's not ordinary. It's very special. You'd give up your body, you leave the body when you're on pilgrimage. Definitely, they'll get a very good birth in the next life. And sometimes Krishna arranges like that, takes devotees out of one situation. We understand that Krishna must have had some important service for them to do some other place. So Krishna makes arrangements to take them out, to take them on to some other place, to continue their service to him. But for devotees of Krishna, it's not karma, it's the plan of Krishna. That's how I understand it. Krishna wants people, some other place, something to be done. Just like, we wanted Prabhupada to finish Srimad Bhagavatam, but Krishna wanted him some other place. Krishna took him. All right, so the Pandavas, we wonder, well, what about the Pandavas? Didn't Krishna want the Pandavas? Well, he did want them, but he had some service for them here on earth. That first of all, they have to establish the rule on earth and God consciousness. The Pandavas are going to rule the world. They're going to rule the whole world, and they're going to establish Dharma. And Krishna wanted that. But then after Krishna departed from the world, it was arranged that the Pandavas would retire, and they would also give up everything. So we have to understand Krishna's plan. Yeah? Somebody please read this for us.
Eventually, all the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and everyone else are devoured like a meal by the Supreme. This form of the Supreme Lord is the all-devouring giant, and here Krishna presents himself in that form of all-devouring time. Except for a few Pandavas, everyone who was present on that battlefield would be devoured by him. Shall I continue?
Yes.
Arjuna was not in favor of the fight, and he thought it was better not to fight. Then there would be no frustration. In reply, the Lord is saying that even if he did not fight, every one of them would be destroyed, for that was his plan. If Arjuna stopped fighting, they would die in another way. Death could not be checked, even if he did not fight. In fact, they were already dead. Time is destruction, and all manifestations are to be vanquished by the desire of the Supreme Lord. That is the law of nature.
So Arjuna, of course, he was hesitant to fight. He wasn't in favor of fighting, we know that. But the Lord wants to show that even you don't fight, these people are all going to die. So Arjuna may think, okay, let them die, then I'm not going to do it. I don't want to be the one. But Arjuna wants to be a surrendered servant to Krishna. The reason why Arjuna fought was because Krishna wanted him to fight. No other reason. It wasn't that, oh, Arjuna thought, I'll be the hero, I'll get all the credit, people will know I'm a great fighter. No, he fought because Krishna wanted him to do it. And he wanted to please Krishna. So that is the important thing for a devotee. We have to think, what does Krishna want me to do? How can I please Krishna? It's very important for us.
Maharaj,
Maharaj, I
may
had one
I ask a question?
Yes?
Tarun Prabhu, please go ahead.
No, Prabhuji, please ask.
Maharaj, my question is, before the war of Mahabharat was started, Arjuna and all other Pandavas, including Bhishma, Nakul, Sahadev, were all bent on fighting, were all bent on killing the Kauravas one by one. Okay, but Lord Krishna was bent on making peace negotiations, and he had sent so many messengers of peace, and he himself had gone once as a messenger of peace. But later on, when the war of Mahabharat was started, then this all happened. Now Krishna is desiring Arjuna to fight, and Arjuna is not desiring to fight. So it's quite opposite to the previous scene and this scene now. So can you please throw some light on this?
Well, difficult. What can we say? We can say that simply that Lord Krishna is showing that even though he tried to get peace, that it wasn't possible. It wasn't going to happen. The Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, they didn't want peace. So even though Lord Krishna himself is coming as a peace ambassador, he's not successful. So even though you're the Supreme Lord, that sometimes you can't, certain things in life, you cannot avoid what's supposed to happen. What's meant to be is going to happen. And even the Supreme Lord cannot change, he's not able to change it. It's a material world, and this is a material situation. And it's inevitable that there's going to be a war and there's going to be destruction. Remember also, the Lord has to come. One of the reasons the Lord had to come was to relieve the earth of the burden of all these demonic kings. And so, why did the Lord try to get peace? No, sometimes you're not going to be successful. Sometimes you do things, you try, and it's just not going to happen. But Lord Krishna went there anyway. He tried on behalf of the Pandavas. He went there, he did try to get peace, but they didn't want it. And so in this way, the Pandavas are told that you have to go ahead, you're going to have to fight. But we see still when Arjuna got out there on the actual day, the very first day of the battle, and Arjuna's out there, and then he's overwhelmed. Again, he's thinking, didn't want to fight. So it was such a situation that the Pandavas, because they're devotees, because they're saintly people, they didn't want to get involved in all this fighting and killing, particularly with people who they were related to. But in the end, they had to do it. So certain times, sometimes you just have to do things, even though you don't like to do it. You have to do what's required. And Krishna required this. Krishna required it. He wanted all these demonic kings should all be relieved. They should be moved. They should leave this planet. They all had to die. So Krishna brought everyone there for the Kurukshetra war. They could kill each other. And then the world could be much better off without all these demonic kings.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you so much.
But at the same time, after the battle, then Kali Yuga begins, right? Shortly after Kurukshetra war, then you're into Kali Yuga. So, in some ways, these kings were all fortunate. They all got relieved from they didn't have to stay around for the Kali Yuga, the horrible Kali Yuga, the time of irreligiosity. So it was a relief. And so it's Krishna's mercy, how merciful Krishna is to everyone. You see, although these kings were a burden to the earth, Lord Krishna arranged that they could leave the earth, and that way they didn't have to be subjected to the evil time of Kali Yuga. And they got liberated before the Kali Yuga. And so Lord Krishna's plan is always merciful for everyone. Everyone gets a good deal out of it. Even the demons, like Duryodhana and so on, these people who all died, they all got good situation after they left the body. So nobody should complain, oh, Krishna's plan, Krishna's not good to me, Krishna's not merciful to me. I don't know, Krishna's not caring about me. Sometimes we think like that. No, Krishna's kind to everyone. He cares about everyone. And we just have to just be patient and wait to see Krishna's plan. Okay, we'll go ahead.
Yes,
Hare Krishna Maharaj ji.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. May I ask a small question, Maharaj?
Yes, sir.
So you said that Krishna was favorable to everybody, so even the demons got liberation. So Maharaj, I heard in a lecture that this Sayujya Bhakti or liberation merging into the Supreme Brahm is worse than even hell. So the soul is idle there, and it's a hellish situation for the soul.
For devotees, it's a hellish situation, but not for everyone. Not for the impersonalists. That's their goal. They consider, and there is some happiness there. I mean, there's not a lot. There's not the happiness there. It's not equal to the happiness of pure devotional service. It's very insignificant to the happiness of pure devotional service. But there is some happiness there in the Brahman. Just achieving the Brahman, there is some happiness there, and there's no suffering. There's absolutely no suffering there.
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, you can say, "Oh, well, this is hellish." Yeah, for devotees, it's hellish, but for other people, others, they don't find it so bad. They're quite attracted to it. They're quite happy. They're thinking, "No, the one with the Brahman, go out of free of birth and death. No more birth and death. Out of the wheel of samsara." It's a big thing, it's not a small thing to achieve that kind of position, to get out of the wheel of birth and death and to enter into even though it's in the impersonal Brahmajyoti, but to get that far, it's not very common. So these people are certainly blessed. Common people, they just simply take birth in the 84 lakh species of life.
Yes, ma'am.
But fortunate souls, Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yatati Siddhi. Right? Out of thousands among men, only hardly one is endeavoring for perfection. And that perfection, that is that's a Brahman, the impersonal Brahman. So it's a level of perfection. And from there, they can be fortunate, they can be liberated. It is possible that from the Brahman, they can be elevated, they can become devotees, if they're attracted by the Sankirtan. Because sometimes the Sankirtan devotees go around And sometimes they're passing through the Brahmajyoti, and when they pass through the Brahmajyoti, then some soul may be there in the Brahmajyoti, he may be attracted by the sound of the kirtan, and he may be drawn into the association of devotees and give up impersonalism. So that's very nice.
Thank you, Maharaj. So there was another small question, if you permit. I may ask.
Yeah.
Bhishma Pitama is one of the Mahajans, and as you said, in all these were punished for being silent at the time of Draupadi's incident. So Maharaj, even for Kshatriya's dharma, he has to come to the protection of the cow, women, Brahmana, old people, and children. So how do we understand, Maharaj? We have to follow the Mahajanas, and Bhishma Pitama being a Mahajana stayed silent. He did not follow his Swadharma.
Yes, right. Well, sometimes it's said that Bhishma at that time, somehow he'd eaten some contaminated food and it had affected his consciousness, and that's why he did not react.
Okay.
So that's one explanation I heard from it. I never actually heard it in text, but I did hear that from another devotee, that he told me that Bhishma had eaten some contaminated food and that affected his mind, and because of that that's why he didn't take any action and do anything to protect Draupadi.
This is a question when I sometimes feel answerless when I try to preach people. So this and Maharaj did that gambling, and so he was also Dharmaraj. So gambling being done by Dharmaraj, and even wife being put on stake. So how can we follow Dharmaraj even in that sense, Maharaj? So some people ask when we say Yudhishthira was Dharmaraj. So normally people do not consider this dharma, and even that Mahajan point. Yeah. So I sometimes feel paralyzed sort of way on Maharaj.
Well, we could say one reason is because they were Kshatriyas and they're duty bound. When they're challenged, they have to accept the challenge.
Yeah, this is
because it wasn't Kali Yuga, and they were following Varnashram, and they were in the role of Kshatriyas, and when the Kshatriya is challenged, he has to accept that challenge. So they were challenged to the game of dice, and they had no choice but to accept the challenge. Of course, it was a crooked game of dice. It wasn't a fair game of dice. It was crooked, but they had to deal with the challenge. They just can't refuse. It's the honor of the Kshatriya that he cannot refuse any challenge. Even though he knows he's going to lose, he will still accept the challenge. Just like even some, But I was thinking that sometimes even we see, devotees, although we don't practice Varnashram, that sometimes you get challenged, you get challenged. I remember sometimes you'd see people at the bank of the Ganga and they challenge each other to a wrestling match, and people, they get involved, they go into this and they wrestle each other, and, they're actually not enemies or anything, but still there's some challenge there. So if you don't accept the challenge, they think, oh, you coward, it's not good for your ego. People will look down on you and so on. And so it's only proper that the Pandavas, when they were challenged to take part in a gambling match, they had to do it.
That's right. So putting wife on stake, I was asking, how is that dharma being done by Dharmaraj?
Yes, well, that was the unfortunate circumstance that they had nothing else. They had nothing else to learn, but still their challenge was there. They were challenged, and they had nothing else to wager. So they lost everything else, and they had to also again accept the challenge. They didn't like it, certainly they didn't like it, but they just couldn't refuse. It was just not the culture for the Kshatriyas. Of course, it was very exceptional. You could also say this is actually the plan of the Lord, because the Lord wants to bring out the glory of his devotee. And by that gambling match and by the attempt to disrobe Draupadi, it showed her actual glory as a great devotee. It's that pastime which brings her out, that she's such an amazing devotee, that she has so much faith in the Lord, and the Lord is so dear to her that he comes himself in the form of her unlimited sari. And so it's a wonderful pastime to highlight the chastity and the faith of Draupadi, to show her, to reveal her glory as a wonderful devotee. You could say it's Krishna's plan, he wants to, just like Arjuna is glorified for being a great fighter and the hero of Kurukshetra war, so Draupadi is also glorified for her wonderful chastity, her faith in the Lord, how much devotion she had for him. That even though her husbands couldn't save her, she could call out the name of the Lord. Right? When they tried to disrobe her, she called for the Lord, and the Lord came.
Thank you.
Okay.
But there is one thing in regard to the same question. That once you have been asked for a gambling match and you're gambling, I mean, it doesn't mean that person has to get up only after losing everything, isn't it? He can after some point of time, after one or two stakes, he can then quit the gambling match. I mean,
well, yeah, but then you quit. You're a coward. Why? You quit. It's a stain on the character. You're supposed to be Kshatriya. Kshatriya dies on the battlefield, right? He goes out in the war. He knows, he's going to die in the battlefield, but he goes out there and fights. He doesn't think, oh, I don't want to die, I'm not going to go and fight. No, he's happy to go out there, and he will die going forward. He's not going to run away. Oh, I might get killed, let me run away. No, the glory is to die going forward. The Kshatriya has to die going forward. If he dies retreating, that's terrible. That's a disgrace. You can read about Vritasura. Vritasura was leading the demons in the battle against the demigods and Indra. And the demons were running away because Indra was so powerful. Indra was defeating all the demons, and they were running away. But Vritasura chastised them and said, what is this? You can't do it. Why are you running away? This is not the proper behavior. You should die going forward. So similarly, you're challenged. Sometimes you have to accept these challenges. The mood of the Kshatriya is like that. Just like when Bhima was going to collect flowers, they told him, oh, this lake, you can't take any lotuses from here. This lake is all the property of some yaksha. But Bhishma said, I'm a Kshatriya, I don't beg from anyone. If I want something, I take it. I don't beg from anyone. So that's the mood of the Kshatriya, the Kshatriya mood. And you get, and when you're challenged, when they're challenged, they have to accept that. They just can't put it off. No way to avoid it. And you can see Lord Balaram playing chess with Rukmini's brother, Rukma, is it? Rukmi or Rukma? One of them. Rukmi, okay. And so they were playing chess. And the wager got bigger and bigger. And they came to 10 million gold coins. And they're both playing, you know, the stakes were so high. But they didn't say, no, oh no, I'm not going to play. No, they kept playing. They won't quit, because that would be very bad. That would be shameful. You have to go through, even you lose, but to die on the battlefield, that is glorious. Right? Two deaths are glorious. One death is to die in samadhi, and the other death is to die on the battlefield. So, Kshatriyas, they want that glorious death.
Maharaj, could you please throw some more light on the death in samadhi?
Well, some people have that ability. They sit in samadhi and they can take the soul out of the body. Drive the soul up, out the top of the head. Right? That's mystic yogi. The mystic yogi departs from the body in that way. You take the soul out through the top of the head, and the soul will leave and enter into the spiritual world. That is death in samadhi.
Maharaj, could we say that Prabhupada, when he was leaving his body, that could also be referred to as death in samadhi?
Yes. Yeah, you could say that.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj.
Because Prabhupada was there, he was hearing commentaries from his spiritual master. Devotee was sitting by Prabhupada's bedside reading, and Prabhupada was hearing, and the devotees were all chanting the holy name. And so definitely Prabhupada was very much in samadhi when he departed. They had the deities' garlands around his neck, and the room was full with devotees chanting, and a devotee reading the purports, reading commentaries, and the pictures of the deities in front of Prabhupada. And so, yeah, that's samadhi.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you so much.
Maharaj, I have heard like for devotees, there is not like the yogi do. Yogis do. In the they leave their bodies in Brahmurata or noon or in the Brahmurata. But for a devotee, if kirtan is going on, as like Prabhupada left his body in evening around 7. So is it right, Maharaj? For devotee, I am not able to recall the complete sentence, but it's like it's not this for the devotees. Devotees can leave their bodies at any time. That is their.
Yes, you're right. Yes, we're practicing bhakti yoga. So bhakti yoga, it doesn't depend on any special time. It's always auspicious by bhakti yoga. But in the Bhagavad-Gita, in the 8th chapter, it's described about mystic yogis, the jnana yogis and like that, how they depart. They have to be careful what time they leave the body. But for a devotee, it doesn't matter. Can leave the body anytime.
Thank you, Maharaj.
We say Subhasha Sigram, right? Subhasha Sigram. Auspicious thing, immediate. So for the devotee, it's always auspicious. Because devotee is always remembering Krishna. So there's no question of what's inauspicious or auspicious. It's always auspicious if the devotee is thinking of Krishna. All right, and here's text number 33, the famous verse with the Nimitta Matram Bhava Savya Sachin. right? Become the instrument in my service, right? Arjuna is Sabyasachi. Why is he Sabyasachi?
Because he is expert in shooting the arrows, Maharaj.
In what way is he expert?
In shooting the arrows.
Yeah, but how does he, can you tell me how he's expert? What does he do that's so expert? Many people shoot arrows.
Sorry, Maharaj.
Maharaj, can we relate the Draupadi's Swayamvar here, and when Dronacharya saw him shooting arrows in the night, and he was amazed that at such a young age he can do all of this?
Yes, right. That's one thing. Could shoot arrows in the dark. Right?
And then Maharaj, the one incident which was Draupadi's Swayamvar, where he saw the reflection of the fish in the water and shoot it straight in the eye.
Right. Yes, the fish, right?
Yes, Maharaj, yes.
The eye of the fish. He had to shoot through the wheel. Fire an arrow through a rotating wheel to pierce the eye of the fish. And Arjuna was also, he could fire arrows with the left hand or with the right hand. He was
both hands, Maharaj.
Ambidextrous, yes.
Both hands.
Both hands, right. So this way he's really expert. He's really Savyasachin. Yeah, it said Dasarath, Maharaj Dasarath, he was also an archer. He could fire arrows in the dark, but he got a problem. One time he was in the forest and he heard the sound and he thought it was a deer, and he fired an arrow and then he heard a human voice. He'd actually pierced the body of a young man who had gone to fetch water for his elderly parents. And so Maharaj Dasarath had fired an arrow thinking it was the sound of an animal getting water. And he didn't see it was actually a human because maybe it's the trees or the dark or whatever. But Maharaj Dasarath had done this, and he had to then go and tell the young man's parents that he'd killed their son. And the couple were elderly. They were elderly and invalid. And so they told Maharaj Dasarath that your sin is great, that you've killed our only son. He was taking care of us. So the elderly couple, they gave up their bodies, but before they gave up their body, they told Maharaj Dasarath, they said, as we have to die without our son, you will also have to die without the presence of your son. So that's what happened to Maharaj Dasarath. So being an expert archer can be a problem sometimes. You have to be very careful. But anyway, Arjuna, he was expert, and he's encouraged, use your skill in the service of Krishna, right? Whatever you can do, you may not be able to fire arrows, but whatever you do it for Krishna. That's important. So therefore, get up, prepare to fight and win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Sabyasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight. Right? You're not the doer, you're just the instrument. Krishna is reminding Arjuna and all of us of our position in our battle against the material nature. We are simply instruments in the service of Krishna. Okay, any other questions tonight? Or we'll stop here.
Maharaj, I had one question from the previous slide, from the purport of 32nd verse. So here, Prabhupada is writing that, like, even if Arjuna doesn't fight, still all these warriors will die. So I was just thinking, like even if in our family, if someone has got some deadly disease, so it's our duty to try to protect them, to try to see that, because everyone wants like the biggest fear, and everyone is working so that he can delay his death. So even Arjuna was, what I feel, that thinking same, that why should I become the cause of a mishappening. Similarly, like we also try to save life of our near and dear ones, and even if we see that if any devotee is suffering from a deadly from a disease which is terminal, we try to save him. So means anyways everyone will die, but isn't it our duty to save a dying man? Like if a person is drowning, so shouldn't we save him?
Well, Prabhupada explains, he said there are two sides to that. On one side, there's the public opinion. On the other side, there's the karma. Person is dying, it's his karma. Other side, public opinion. If you can save him, then public opinion then will be you did very good. But if you don't try to save people, the people say, why you didn't try to save him? Why you didn't try to help him? Now, and there was an instance where the devotees, they actually saved people's lives. It happened in Australia. There was a fire in a building, and the devotees took some sheets and they held out sheets, and the people jumped off the roof of the building into the sheets. So the newspaper said, Hare Krishna people saved the lives of all these people who were in the building. And so Prabhupada was very pleased. He said, this is very good publicity. He said, the devotees are being recognized as heroes and saving the lives of people. So Prabhupada said, it's nice to get that kind of public opinion, to get good public opinion. If the public have a bad opinion of you, it's not very good for our movement. So public opinion is important. We do care about what the public think about us.
Maharaj, but what I feel, that more than public opinion, isn't it our duty, like before even being a devotee, it's being a gentleman, it's a duty to save life of a dying man. Obviously it's not in our hands, but public opinion, what I feel, is the secondary thing. First is, it's our what I feel, that it's our duty, that if a person who is even not a devotee, if he is dying, then trying to save him, or our family member, or if we see a devotee with a terminal disease.
Okay, a devotee with a terminal disease. Are you able to save him? How can anybody save him? He's got a terminal disease.
Means not a terminal, like it's not on the last stage, but if suppose someone detects cancer and we try to arrange a hospital facility, or some medicines or some Lakshmi, and trying to save him, like trying to get some arrangements. Like during COVID, we saw that so many devotees were suffering, and devotees were trying to arrange oxygen cylinders, ICU, and those things. So what I feel that
well, up to a certain point, we can try to save, but we have to understand we are very limited in trying how much we can save. It's really in the hands of Krishna, how much we can save anyone's life. I had there was one devotee who I was working with quite a lot. I was very close to him, and he got throat cancer. He got throat cancer, and he did do treatment. He tried to get treatment and so on, and it was very painful. He suffered a lot. And finally, he went to a spiritual master, and he got permission that he would just go and fast and give up his body. And he did that. It took a couple of weeks, but he gave up his body. Because he had throat cancer, he couldn't do anything. He was in pain, spitting up blood, could hardly speak. They tried treatment. Didn't work. We gave him money, and we spent money on his treatment. Finally, just he thought the best thing I can do is give up my body, and he got the blessings of his Guru Maharaj, and he did it. So, yeah, not everybody wants to do like that, but, you know, what can you say? You know, I mean, you're in pain, you're suffering from cancer. How much you can, how long can we drag on with the body? So we have to understand our position. You know, we're simply puppets in the hands of the Supreme Lord. The doctors, are they going to save us? You know, I've seen people go to doctors and they go through surgeries and so much surgery, but, you know, it's so, you know, I don't really like. Prabhupada also used to say, he used to tell the devotees, he said, don't give me to the doctors. He told that. I remember him saying, he said, don't give me to the doctors. Prabhupada knew he was in elderly age. He knew he was going to give up the body sometime. He didn't want to die in the hands of doctors. He said, simply they would do tests. Tubes, so many tubes and things and this and that, you know, needles and stuff. But they can't really cure. So the real medicine is the holy name. So, you know, this is Mrityu Loka, planet of death. We're all, you know, we all know we're going to die. Krishna said, Jatasya hi dhruvam mrityu dhruvam janmam mritasyat. One who has taken birth has to die. You're going to run to the doctors to save you, to keep you alive? You spend so much money, 1 lakh a day in the ICU. You know, is it worth it? I don't know, I'd rather give the money to Krishna than give it to the hospitals. Okay? What do you think?
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj means like what I wanted to say, what my point was that as Arjuna is telling, like as Prabhupada is writing that anyways they will die, so so Arjuna should just become the nimitta matra. So my point is that like definitely everyone will die, but what's wrong in trying to save him?
And what's the question? How much can you try to save him? How much are you going to do? Do you think putting him in the ICU is going to save him? How long is it going to save him? A few more days? Is it worth it? Is it worth?
Sometimes it can be 20-30 years also. We can, like, if we make some effort and they can get.
Well, you have to you have to consider. Now, if somebody's 70 years old.
Yes, definitely, yes.
Yeah, right. And even somebody's 50 years old. Prabhupada said 50 years old, also old man. Okay, you're saying 30 years old. Well, that's a special case. Yeah, how much Prabhupada said like that. Anyway, devotees asked Prabhupada, he said there's two things. You consider the public opinion, otherwise it's the karma. We have our karma. How much you can, you know, you go to doctors and you still have your karma. Doctor's not going to change the karma. Even somebody said to me, well, what if I hadn't paid the money to the doctor, I would have died. If I hadn't got that injection. I said, it's not just the injection. You could have had the injection and still died. The blessings of Krishna had to be there. So that's the important thing, to get the blessing of Krishna. Okay.
Maharaj, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
In the same, thank you, Maharaj. In the same incidents, what I have heard, like a man was drowning and there was a devotee who could save him. But I please beg forgiveness if I'm wrong. Please correct me. Prabhupada, yes, for preaching purpose, for getting this is good to save. Otherwise, that person, if we are gonna save a karmi person, a materialistic person, after getting, because that would be his or her new life. and after whatever karma he or she will make, that will come to us also. Is it true, Maharaj?
Yes, it's true.
Because for a devotee we will give blood, we will do everything, because he is engaged in the service of Radha and Krishna. But for non-devotee, whatever, like if we, like I have heard that if we donate our eyes, people donate our eyes after life, so whatever the karma they will make, whatever the scenes, if they are not having darshan of Radha Krishna, with that eyes I'm having wrong things, by the if I'm not using the eyes properly, then all the karmas we will take, even we have left the body.
Yes. Yeah, karma. Why should we give them more opportunity for their sinful life? Huh? Okay. Thank you. All right, we'll stop here tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Or Bhakti Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Maharaj.